I think the league is as wide open right now as it's probably been in quite some time. You can make a case for Baylor. You can make a case for Oklahoma State. You can make a case for Oklahoma. And maybe some others.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
We are back again. It is the Fremont Pod. I am John Kurtz, and today we continue with more coverage from Big 12 Media Days. That means you get to hear from the voice of the Cats and one of the greatest dudes that you will find in the broadcast industry, Wyatt Thompson. Really excited to get you guys this. He sat down with Cole and Derek at Arlington and Big 12 Media Days, so I've got you for the first little part of this. We'll get you into the interview, and everything will be all right with the world. First of all, thank you, as always, for the support of Holiday Distillery. They bring you 360 vodka and Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon. Whichever your poison is, pick your poison there. If you are a bourbon fan, I have heard nothing but great things about Ben Holiday's bottled and bond bourbon. It is pretty new, so make sure you get out there. You want to be the cool one and find the new bourbon that your friends are all going to love. That's the stuff, man. Go find it, go try it out, and support those who support us, which is Holiday Distillery, and they've been there since day one of the 3-Ma pod. They also have 360 vodka. If you are more of a vodka drinker, that's not my style as much, but also you see 360 vodka everywhere. If that is your style, that is a great way to go as well. So Holiday Distillery brings you Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon and 360 vodka. Thank you to their support as always. Okay, Wyatt Thompson, a guy that I know very well, hosted a weekly radio show with him throughout football and basketball season for the better part of 7 or 8 years. I spent a lot of time in a little cube with Mr. Wyatt Thompson, one of the best dudes around that you will ever meet. If you ever see him at a Catbacker event, something like that, definitely go introduce yourself. One of the best guys and just a great cat, man. Great cat who's been around for a long time now, since 2002 when he took over as play-by-play voice of the Kansas State Wildcats. I'm excited for this conversation. Here's what Wyatt had to say about the Cats' upcoming season and everything happening right now around Manhattan with Derek and Cole.
We're pleased to be joined with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson. Wyatt, thanks for coming on with us.
My pleasure. It's good to be on with you guys. Thrilled to be here in Dallas. This is kind of the official, for me at least, I'm sure you guys are the same way, kind of the kickoff of the new football season. I'm excited to get going.
We made a return trip last September. Last year we came here a second time.
That's right.
Is that going to happen this year?
Well, I'd like to do it 3 times, actually. Well, in a year. I mean, we can't play Stanford every time. But I get the point. I told Stan coming in here today, wouldn't it be cool to be here today and then come back in December? And you want to dream a little bit, but, I really like this team. Sure, there are question marks, but I think the league is wide open, and I'm sure you guys would agree with that.
Yeah, what do you think the ceiling is for this team? It strikes us as the most talented roster that Chris Kleiman's had.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And with that said, I don't know if I would say I know what the ceiling is yet. And what I mean by that is, I asked Coach at his press conference about the safety position. I think that's a key thing because he went and last year got those guys in the transfer portal and got them ready to play early, and they were terrific. Russ Yeast is now playing in the NFL. I love Julius Brents. I think he's a heck of a player. I mean, you think about what Reggie Stubblefield did. If they can replicate some of that with some of these new guys, whether it's, Kobe Savage or whoever it might be, Josh, whatever, Cheatham. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that could be in the mix. I think you've got a really good football team on your hands. And then on top of that, I think we have a pretty good feel for the offense with Deuce, the receivers, maybe even to a degree the offensive line. But what is Adrian Martinez going to be really? I think he's a wonderful young man. I think he's fit in very well. I think he's a terrific athlete. I don't know what that says to you guys, but to me that says he's got a chance. We know this. He's a good young man. He's a good athlete. I think we know he's going to get good coaching. I like my chances that he's going to be pretty decent. You know?
Yeah, well, he's got a better supporting cast. I think he's even mentioned it than maybe the teams that he had in Nebraska.
Sure.
And a better coaching staff. And then when it comes to the safeties, it definitely feels like there's a quiet confidence, would you say, around Josh Hayes and Kobe Savage?
Yeah, I've liked Josh Hayes since I first met him. You know, these coaches love experience. Coach talked about it today with Adrian Martinez, and I think you can see that with Josh, maybe to a lesser degree with Kobe and maybe others. But that's why I think they had the success they did last year. Those guys had been around the block a little bit. It was easier to fit in. You know, in Adrian's situation, even though he didn't really do a whole lot in the spring until the last couple of practices, and I loved what I saw when they cut him loose for those last two, he really has abilities. But even when he wasn't doing everything, you could tell he was very familiar and comfortable with the surroundings and the offense, even though he was still kind of putting it all together in one mixing bowl and getting it ready to bake, so to speak. I just think there's so much upside to him. You almost wish there was more time, but I'll take the one, I guess, as opposed to zero.
Well, and what a selling point it would be for Kansas State and this coaching staff. Adrian Martinez, you see Nebraska fans always coming after him, right?
Sure,
And
sure.
they blame him for the failures and struggles in Lincoln. But if Kansas State and this coaching staff can have his best season under this staff, what that does, I mean, they already have the last three quarterbacks get drafted, right? And then you got Adrian Martinez. It would just be a really staple guy for Colin Klein to put his mark on.
You covered a lot of things there, Cole, in all honesty, and I would add to it a couple of thoughts come to mind just hearing you talk. I would say first and foremost, in all fairness to everyone, I believe most people that are involved in the game will tell you the quarterback gets way too much credit and way too much criticism. And I'm not defending the Nebraska fan base. I'm just saying that's true with all, right? So there's that. I think after that, you look at this young man. I had a couple of people up there that knew a little bit about him and knew him decently well that basically called him a 5-star kid and a 4-star talent. Well, I don't know what that says to you, but that says that's pretty good. It's like thoroughbred racehorse.
I'll take it.
You know, bloodlines matter. That experience matters. All of those things matter when it comes to football. And again, I can't over stress this or under stress it, whatever's the right way to say it. The way he has fit into the K-State program, you have to play that out. That's significant in every single way, in my opinion.
Do they have enough firepower at wide receiver? I think Phil Brooks is underrated.
Yep.
But I think the rest are kind of like you're waiting to see that kind of rise to the surface still.
I think that is a spectacular question because I wonder in my own mind, other than maybe safety, if that isn't the next biggest question on the team. I'm like you. I'm a big Phillip Brooks fan. I'm a Malik Knowles fan. I think both guys are capable of more, especially Malik.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to take nothing away from Phillip, but I think Phillip is, over the course of his career, has probably been a little bit more consistent.
He's maximized himself,
He's
too.
maximized it out a little bit. I still don't know if Malik has played his best football. Do you? I mean, I just don't think. No, I agree with that. You know, and the other factor there is everybody else. I'm one of the lucky ones. I get to see practices from time to time, and I'm a knock on wood. I hope I'm right on this one. I really think R.J. Garcia has a chance to be terrific. I don't know if he'll be terrific in 2022 or he'll be good in 22, but he's going to be somewhere in there. And I think moving ahead, he'll even take it the next step or the step after that moving forward. You know, there are other guys. I think it's great to have, you know, somebody like Cade Warner back with his, you know, and he's not a superior athlete, but again, experience. He's going into this camp so much farther ahead than he was a year ago because he knows what he's doing. And then, you know, there are other guys there. I mean, what can they get from a Keenan Garber? They've got a transfer kid that I haven't really seen yet that they really like. So that's what I love about this day and moving towards the start of camp, because you really start honing in and focusing in on those positions. And, how much will Cooper Beebe play guard or tackle?
Right.
We could talk for 10 hours about this with every single position, and I love that part of it.
What do you think of the offensive line? You got Cooper Beebe, obviously. Yeah. You got Taylor Portier, which is significant. I thought he was one of K-State's best offensive linemen, and then he tore his ACL, right? KT Leviston is back, and then you've got some young guys, Andrew Langang, others. What do you make of this offensive line and how good they could be?
Well, I look at it like this, and they lost a significant piece at center. We understand that with Noah Johnson. I don't know if Noah's necessarily the greatest athlete to ever come down the pike, but he was so smart and so tough, technically did so many things right. How do they replace that? Well, I think Hayden Gillum is capable of that. I'm a big fan of those two young kids, Hadley Panzer, who got his feet wet a little bit last year, and I think Andrew Langang has a chance to be a pro. I'm way high on him. I mean that sincerely. He's exceptionally strong and tough. I could see him playing a ton of football and maybe being one of those guys like Cooper that they move around. Very gifted athlete. But Taylor Portier is a key one there because I think you're right. Kleiman has said going into last year when he tore up his knee that he was their best offensive lineman, which is significant when that line includes Christian Duffy and some of those kind of guys. Cooper Beebe.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Connor Riley doesn't give out praise very much. We know that.
Right.
And he called Taylor Portier this spring, even an all Big 12 caliber player. So.
Yeah, you look at the 2020 season when he got inserted into the lineup, the running game exploded those last few games that season. And not just Taylor Portier, but obviously played a part. He was blowing guys off the football.
So athletic.
He's a good athlete. That's well said. And I think he has a very large motor. Knock on wood, you just have to hope that he stays healthy. I think he's really in good shape and ready to go now. You got to get him through camp and get him into the season. My expectations for him is I think he starts from day one and will continue to move forward. He's a really neat young guy.
You had him at the Catbacker event a lot, right?
Yeah, we did.
He was pretty good with that?
Well, he has a lot of personality. But the bottom line is this a game about toughness and talent, and he has both of those factors in my mind.
And I liked your perception on Langang. He strikes me as a Cooper Beebe type that's going to be versatile, can play guard, can move out to tackle.
Yeah, when I first saw him, who came to mind for me, even though he might be just a little bit taller, is Cody White here.
Yeah.
Because he has excellent hands and feet. And I was so amazed early on, there are a lot of guys that'll come in that are 6'3" or 6'3.5" or 6'4", and as a true freshman are weighing 265 or 270. But he came in at 6'4" and 300, and he looked accomplished. He may not have been in terms of the knowledge of the game, but from the body perspective, he met you farther than halfway by a long ways. How's that? He's got a chance to be special.
All right, so there's part one of the interview with Wyatt Thompson. We've still got plenty more coming. We will take a break, but on the other side, you're going to get more with Wyatt Thompson as he joined Derek and Cole live from Arlington at Big 12 Media Days. That's coming up next. All right, back on the Three Ball Pod, John Kurtz with you. Derek and Cole, we'll talk more with Wyatt Thompson in just a moment. First, though, I do need to remind you, if you have not checked out Home Field Apparel yet, please do, because you're going to, frankly, you will look uncool. If you don't have the Home Field Apparel out at the Bill this year for a football game, you're just going to be missing out. You're going to see all these awesome designs and be like, man, where was that? Well, it was at Home Field Apparel because they just dropped the K-State line on July 16th. And this stuff is amazing. I've been waiting for this for a while. College football fans know well, if you're somebody, especially an internet savvy, like a Twitter savvy college football fan, you know all about Home Field Apparel and how awesome this stuff is. They take their time to do their research to find old school, really cool designs, great material, super comfortable, looks awesome. It's as good as you can get when it comes to college apparel. And as such, K-State fans responded in kind. They are third all time, K-State fans, in purchases of these from fan bases. Number 1, Florida. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, K-State. K-State podiumed in the first day by getting all the way up there to number 3, which if you follow Home Field Apparel on Twitter, you saw plenty of press and publicity about that. I even saw Mike Golick Jr. just tweeting about it, like how excited he was that K-State fans did that. So make sure to get in on the action. They have 15 different designs, old school logos. It is super, super cool. You can get hoodies, you can get crew necks, you can get t-shirts. They're awesome. Go check it out. And make sure when you check out, use promo code 3MAW, 3MAW, the number 3MAW to get 15% off your order. And basically tell them that 3MAW sent you. All right. So go get hooked up on the clothes and come say hi to us at a football game this year and make sure you're rocking that home field apparel. Thank you to their support. Without further ado, here is part 2 of the conversation that Derek and Cole had with K-State play-by-play voice Wyatt Thompson.
What's it say about Chris Kleiman and the way he evolves as a coach? Because last year changed the defense.
Yep.
This year we're changing the offense. He's made some support staff stuff to kind of elevate the recruiting we discussed earlier. He's just kind of not the same coach he even was at North Dakota State anymore.
I think that's perfectly said. You know, there's a lot of things when you ask that question that come to mind. I think I'll almost equate it to a basketball coach. You hear coaches say all the time, well, don't ask me about stylistically what are we, because we're going to do what we do with the personnel we have. I think that's kind of what Coach Kleiman is and what you kind of described there. Because making that kind of move defensively as close to the season as they were a year ago took some guts. And they were committed to it. There were growing pains, but they never really went away from it. And the next thing you know, they show up here in Dallas. And I don't know what your expectations were, but I was thinking, I hope we can win, and I think this is going to be a good football game, and K-State clocked them.
Yeah.
It's like, here we go, you know. Now, again, the whole season wasn't perfect, and there's ups and downs, but I do think he's a guy that, like all good coaches, and Stan and I were talking about this earlier, like, you got to give credit to a guy like Mike Gundy. He's turned over some of his staff, and he's continued to produce and recruit, and the results show on the field. And through COVID, I think Coach Kleiman has easily done that. I think he's, you guys know this, you're probably in the same shoes I'm in here. I'm a big fan of Colin Klein, and I'm excited to see what they are offensively this year with all of the pieces that we've talked about. But there always has to be that one big dog in the doghouse, right? And that starts with Kleiman from my perspective.
And with Colin Klein's offense, and obviously they haven't made it not a secret. They want to play a lot faster.
Sure.
I was shocked by that. Nothing about Chris Kleiman's past has really suggested that he wants to play that way.
But you know, I don't know that this is necessarily going to be the wide splits and Mike Leach's Texas Tech Red Raiders reborn.
Right. Yeah.
I think you're going to see K-State at times play very fast. But I think you're also going to see what we saw in the bowl game. Get hustle to the line of scrimmage and then slow down. You know, and I think you'll see them use lots of formations. And I think you can play 2 tight ends and a fullback, and you can, you know, a play later see 4 or 5 wides. I believe that's what we're going to see with Colin Klein. His, I don't want to come across as I'm calling him a genius, but I think he sees things and feels things as an offensive person. And, you know, from his quarterback days, he's learned under some exceptionally talented people.
Yeah,
I think he's got an awfully good feel for what he's doing.
Well, and they were last in the country in plays per game last year,
Correct.
around 58. Coach
Right.
Kleiman told us he'd like to get to 70, 71. The tops in the country right around 80, so that put him middle of the pack.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, I think there's some advantages to what they do to get to the line in a hurry, examine what the defense is doing. If you like the look, quick snap it.
Sure.
Or you get time to adjust what you're going to call, audible out, check out of a play. I really like the switch. One of the things we asked Coach Kleiman about, and I'm curious for your perspective, K-State's obviously landing some very good recruits right now at the skill positions, especially in this 2023 recruiting class. And we won't talk specifics necessarily, but I asked Coach Kleiman, you know, did that factor into the decision as well? Because kids want to play more snaps. They want to play in a fun offense, and now they're going to see this Colin Klein offense. We've heard recruits just rave about him. Now they're going to be able to play, 12, 13 more snaps a game, maybe get more touches. That seems to be a significant factor as well that's beneficial.
That's well said, and I think what I would add to that is I do think with this football team, thinking about what you said, extra plays, difference-making kind of guy under set. Let's be honest, all football now, I'm kind of stepping on what I said earlier to a degree, because I do think the quarterback gets too much praise and too much criticism. But let's cut to the chase here, boys.
And make it go. Yeah.
The quarterback is the position in football, whether it's junior high or the pros and everything in between. And if you have a difference-making guy, you can win a lot of football games. It's just what it is. The other thing that I think is the factor in that with the change and, maybe getting up to 71, 72, 73 plays kind of thing is that, and I think you touched on it, Cole, when you have young people in the program like Deuce Vaughn, you want more opportunities, and there are more coming down the line. Won't mention names here, but everybody knows who they are, and those are dynamic young talents that will be coming into the program a year from now. And hey, you want it to be fun, you want it to be fast, you want it to be dynamic, and I think they'll be that.
Would you have Baylor first in the Big 12 right now? I think we kind of discussed it earlier. This league is a bunch of good teams and no real bad teams. So
right.
Kansas State can really have their best roster and still finish probably with a similar record. That's probably the problem with it, but you hope to increase that record. But is Baylor the favorite in your eyes?
I would say they're probably right there. I don't know if I would say unequivocally they're the easy top choice, because I think you said it well. I think the league is as wide open right now as it's probably been in quite some time. You can make a case for Baylor. You can make a case for Oklahoma State. You can make a case for Oklahoma. And maybe some others. Stan, I thought when we're doing our $105 cab ride from Love down here today, he said, nobody's respecting Tech, but would you be surprised if they won 6 or 7 games? I wouldn't.
They did last year.
Exactly. And they've got a ton of guys back. Even at the bottom of the league, whatever that is, Kansas and somebody, right? I think we all respect the job that Lance has done, and they're getting better. It's just a pretty high hill to climb, but he's starting to climb it, and you got to appreciate him for that. I just think the race will be really fun. It is wide open. I mean, I'll throw the question to you. What are you expecting out of Oklahoma as one example? Are they going to be Brent Venables' Clemson defense in year one and just okay offensively, or are they going to be great defensively and pretty darn good offensively with Jeff Lebby? I mean, time will tell.
I mean, I think their offense, just because they've had success on that side of the ball for so long, I think they probably have the confidence and the maturity and wherewithal and all that to probably find a semblance of what they're doing, especially under Jeff Lebby. Really smart offensive line.
The other thing too is this is how much college football changes. We can talk about the coaching changes at Tech or Oklahoma or whatever, but I'm sure you guys heard. Like, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You guys have been busy too, but I was like thrown into the back seat when I heard Neil Brown at West Virginia said they have 33 new players
since January.
Yeah. Think about that. So my point of that story is that there's change everywhere. It's who's going to manage it. Schedules matter. And that's one thing with K-State where do you put them? They're in that cycle with 4 home, 5 road. That makes it hard.
Especially
got to beat Missouri at home.
Yeah.
Please tell me we're going to beat Missouri at home.
I'm confident I'm going to beat Missouri.
Yeah, I'm not. Missouri has a quarterback issue too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do. Yes. I think they're solid in other places.
Yeah.
And I think there's a perfect example of college football. Do Coach Drinkwitz, do we think he's really, really good, just okay, somewhere in the middle? Time will tell.
Not a fan here.
I'm not a fan of Drinkwitz. It might be more personal, like just the way he interacts with the media. But Missouri game is huge because there's so much momentum relying on that, and it's an old Big 12 rival and can really
recruiting implications.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at the schedule, not only do we start at Oklahoma, but I think my math is right here, where I think we play 3 of our first 4 on the road and 3 of our last 5 at home. That's not exactly the way you want it, right? But if you could find a way to beat, say, TCU, and is it too much to say we're going to beat TCU and Iowa State on the road?
It's haven't had a lot of luck with Iowa State lately.
Sure, and there's another one. What will they be this time?
Hunter Deckers.
Well,
Yeah.
they're back in the role where they kind of thrive as kind of the underdog, forgotten role.
Correct.
They've struggled more as the favorite. They were underwhelming last year, and
Yep.
now they're kind of going under the radar.
Yeah, and they lost. Here's the thing that I believe I know about the league.
Yeah.
Okay, there's lots of questions. We can talk about that all day long. But the one thing that I think is easily said is that you have a Baylor team and an Oklahoma State team that were dominant to a degree defensively last year, and both of those teams have at least 2 and maybe 3 or 4 guys that were difference-making, dominating guys that you have to replace going into 2022. That's significant.
Especially Oklahoma State, I think, because they added a lot less from the transfer portal than most programs, which
Right.
I thought was interesting. I don't know if that's, Mike Gundy's choice. And they lost their defensive coordinator. He's in Columbus now.
That's a good point.
But
Or argue
Gundy-
the other way and say
Gundy
they've got probably
replaces
3 as
coordinators.
good of pass rushers as anybody in the league.
And Gundy
And
replaces
K-State's pretty good
coordinators.
there too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Gundy replaces coordinators better than anyone.
yes he does.
They've been a consistent football program in this
Yeah.
league now under Mike Gundy. He's been probably underappreciated by a lot of folks. So
I agree with that. I think if you look at the consistency of how they recruit and the way they win, and again, it goes to whether you like him or whether you don't is irrelevant here.
Yep.
Results matter, and he wins ball games.
I will say, Wyatt, I do like the Oklahoma game to start
Yeah.
Big 12 play as the first road game because it's a chance to get it out of the way. And
Sure.
I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains for Brent Venables in his first stint as a head coach and their offensive system they're installing. They will have gotten 3 games under the belt, so they might have worked the kinks out. But I do think there's an opportunity down for K-State to go down there and beat the Sooners.
Are you sure? They played Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it will be an interesting thing because remember now, I don't know how you see this, but remember last year Nebraska gave them a pretty good run in Norman, and for that matter, so did Tulane.
Oh, yeah.
And Tulane, by the way, is on our schedule in week 3. So, yeah, college football is here, baby. I'm so happy about that because, you know what? You can only talk so much about realignment before you're ready to knock your head against the wall, right?
Yeah, and Tulane is another it's like the Nevada of last year, where
Correct.
you've got another solid middle tier
Willie
conference,
Fritz
right? Yeah,
from
Yeah.
Kansas, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they were disappointing last year
Oh,
after
yeah.
that Oklahoma game. They
They were.
underachieved, but they
Yeah.
have been pretty good
Yeah.
under Willie Fritz, and so that's a program that could give K-State a little bit of a run in Manhattan week 3. That's a tough game too because it's a sandwich game after the Missouri game, and then you got OU right after, right? So
Right.
they got to be locked in going to that game. No, Wyatt, it's so sick of conference realignment. I'm sure you are too. We've lost sight of what matters and
Correct.
rivalries and geography. What's the point of even having a conference anymore if this is the direction it's going to go?
Yeah, and at some point, I think there will, somewhere along the line, there needs to be. I think one of the coaches said, "Get the train back on the rails." Was the kind of the way it was trying to put it. I'm in agreement with that. Whether it's realignment, whether it's name, image, likeness. I mean, think about it this way with NIL. In a 12-month period, we have gone from the athletes get almost nothing to it's almost pay for play.
Yeah.
We've gone a little too far past that one. But I will say this about realignment. I think a lot of the guys that I've talked to today feel like it's going to slow down here now, let the season play out. But when we get back here a year from now, God willing, we may be talking about it again. Do you think it'll wait that long or no?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. This
Yeah.
is
Depends if any Pac-12 teams panic, probably.
Yeah, and
Or Notre
the
Dame.
obvious factor is Notre Dame. Yeah. If they decide to go, then you could see the chips falling in hundreds of ways.
And you can't trust anybody. No one's telling the
That's
truth.
the saddest part because at the end of the day, you cut right down to it. This is about television and dollars and playoffs and power.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Someone needs to look out for the long-term volatility of the sport. I mean, college football and college athletics, they're looking at the immediate money grab right now.
Right.
But if you eventually get to a model where it's the SEC, Big Ten, and then everybody else is just kind of pushed to the side, and you've only got 30, 40 teams that are really, Power 5 programs.
Outcasting
at
a lot of
that point.
people.
think how many people turn off their televisions and aren't watching the games anymore. Is the money going to be there for the TV?
Well, that's an interesting point, too. And I wonder if we maybe bring this up will be crazy to you, but if we're going to get to like the top 48 teams, are we going to start seeing maybe somebody like Indiana football or Wake Forest or Vandy get tossed out and they bring in Clemson, Florida State, Miami, whoever it might be?
Isn't it wild to think that Vanderbilt is going to make more television dollars this year than USC and Texas? Or like they're going to be making like in a couple of years they're going to be making $50 million more than Kansas State.
Yeah,
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
What do they do with that money? You've been to their stadium.
Well, that's for sure. There's always room for something, isn't there? And then
give it to us.
Here's what I go to bed every night thinking, look, because I've been at K-State for 20 years and I care about the university and the program and all of that, but I also care about the Big 12 and the fan bases with Kansas State and Oklahoma State and Iowa State and Texas Tech are as good as most. I don't care what league we're talking about.
Right.
You know,
go to Lubbock for a basketball game.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, most people will tell you it's as difficult a place to play in as there is. And I think at the end of the day, somewhere along the line, that has to matter long term. Long term. And I do think if we get to a 8 or 12 team playoff at some point, maybe some normalcy somehow sneaks back into the equation here.
Pivoting a little bit back to the football team, Kansas State, on the defensive side of the football, just a couple of names I want to float out to you that I think have chances to really explode this season. Nate Matlock showed flashes last year. What are your thoughts on him? How good could he be? We asked Coach Kyman, could he make the jump that Felix made last year? Because he's got a load of potential. You look at him with the size.
I'll be honest with you. I think your perception, obviously you follow this every day, because he is a guy who is like Felix was a year ago. Kind of an unknown. Everybody thought he had the chance to be a pretty good football player, and bang, look what happened. I mean, you want to talk about breaking out. I know it's putting a lot of pressure on Nate to say that he's going to be the Felix Anudike-Uzomah of 2022.
He's best.
But yet I think he's more than capable. He's long, rangy, strong, athletic, can run. Doesn't that sound like Felix? I think that's the great part about it. Back to what we were talking about with Kleiman and the recruiting and year 4 of the process, and you have those cycles of recruiting classes building on each other now, and you're starting to see guys like that. I think he's not getting the same kind of headlines, but I wonder down the road, what can Cody Stufflebean be like? He's not the same frame, but he has the same motor as Nate Matlack and Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and sometimes K-State's made a pretty good living with guys like that.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. We're probably branching out of the honeymoon period a little bit for Coach Jerome Tang.
Yeah.
But what are your, I guess, expectations going into this season? Probably hard. A lot of guys we don't really know is on this roster.
Yeah.
And what is your level of optimism of what he's going to do at Kansas State?
Well, I'll start by saying what he's done to this point, I think, has been terrific. I think the fans really like him.
Yep.
I think he's bought into the K-State brand, and by that I mean almost everything. He loves the moniker Octagon of Doom. Yeah. He likes the Power Cat sign. He likes emaw. He likes purple. He likes lavender. Right? Yeah. I mean, he was blown away on the Catbacker tour by the crowd in Wichita and their fever pitch.
I heard that was a big one.
It was. It was great. And they moved from outside to inside because of the weather, but he's a very excitable guy, and at the end of the day, I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's a very fine coach, but he is, for the first time, a head coach, and it'll be a little bit different for him, but I think he'll do fine. I think if you're asking me what I think they can accomplish this first year, I'm going to take the high road and be a little bit maybe too optimistic, because I do think they have good players. And by that, I mean, you've got an interesting mix of some of the younger guys are top 150 guys, and then some of the older kids, the transfer that have been around a while, are 1,000 point, 1,100 point scores, if you can mesh those together. Now keep in mind, he's operating in maybe the best basketball league in America.
Yep.
But
No, maybe.
I'm with you. But can he get them to the tournament first year? I'll say this. I won't guarantee that, but I'm not ruling it out either.
I think that's how I would say
Yeah,
it too.
I would
Bubble-ish.
I would
Kind of
carry-
what it feels like. And the Big 12 is going to get better, right? A year or two. Texas and Oklahoma are solid programs, but
Sure.
they weren't make or breaking the Big 12 in the basketball
Well,
front. But you're adding Houston.
nothing. Yeah, Houston has been dominant.
Yeah.
BYU over the course of the last 40 years has been way good. And Cincinnati's tradition is good. To me, the one key is with Central Florida, I don't look at them as what they are today as much as I say, what can they potentially be when they get to this league and can start to sell that to recruits where they recruit from.
And when that enrollment, it's the largest enrollment in the country.
Unreal.
When that starts to formulate into an alumni base and a fan base, that
Sure.
becomes a little bit of a monster at some point.
Yeah.
Similar to TCU, and they obviously had success in the Mountain West, but then they came into the Big 12 and had some seasons where they were dominant.
And when you get the right coach, and I think it's obvious that TCU has one now, and Jamie's the perfect fit for them because he's a TCU grad. They've been patient with him and growing it. I mean, they won an NIT. It wasn't just like they showed up last year and were great.
Right.
But put into perspective what they're doing, they're going to go into this season probably ranked in the top 10 or 12
Yep.
and have everyone back.
Yeah, I think we're really intrigued with the roster that Coach Tang's assembled. So much length and
Yes.
size and athleticism, and what they'll do with that defensively. And obviously, rebounding will be dramatically improved. But
They're more athletic
they're
for
more
sure.
athletic, and I think that people are concerned about putting the ball in the basket. I think they're going to create a lot of turnovers with some of these guys they brought in. They're and the advanced analytics. Some of these guys are really good in the steal rate, steal percentage.
Yeah.
You look at Desi Sills; he's a quality defender. Marquise Noel, we know he's a ball hawk out there.
Yes.
Tyke Green is another guy that has some solid defensive stats and
Yeah.
metrics. I'm looking forward to seeing, do they go to a Baylor zone defensive look that they did before Baylor pivoted to the man-to-man look, or do they mix in, change it up? It's going to be exciting
They're
to
so
watch.
athletic, they can switch all positions.
Well, I'll
too.
tell you a story. I was at Belleville at a Catbacker event on Monday, and I had a guy say, what are they doing recruiting a guy from a place called Hofstra who averaged 7 points and 7 rebounds a game? And I said, hang on. You know how many games we lost last year where we'd have given our left arm for 7 points and 7 rebounds out of the 5 spot?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So keep everything in relativity here. I'm like you. All of those things matter, Cole. Very perceptive on your part, I believe. But I also will say, the last 3 years, even with Nigel and Marquise to a degree, K-State struggled to score the ball. And I do think, even though this may not be the best shooting team, I think there are guys on this team that can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be easier for them to score, and I think they will get a lot more from the defense, or at least you hope. Will they be Baylor early where they set in that zone and it's tough to get in the middle of, and hopefully you can rebound out of it? I hope so. If that's the way they start and a few years later they get to what Baylor was the last couple of years, I'm in.
Well, and you got a guy in Marquise Noel that can create open looks with
Exactly.
his ability to penetrate and kick out. Also, we know that offensive rebounds are often the best chance to get a wide open three-pointer and kick-out opportunity, and I think K-State's going to rebound the heck out of the basketball. I mean, I'm going to butcher his name. You want to pronounce his name, the Hofstra kid?
It's Bayami Igiola, I think.
Wyatt probably could have done it better.
Bayami Ishiola.
Yeah,
I think you're on it, buddy. Well done.
There you go, right on the spot. I put him on the spot.
Yeah,
Third
yeah.
in offensive rebounding percentage last year in the
Yeah.
country was Igiola. And so I just think I'm excited to see
His best
out there.
games, too, if you look over his history, I don't know if he was at Hofstra yet. Was he at Stetson before that? Was that
Yes.
the other
Well,
guy?
yes.
And he had a game against Duke, which was, I think, a double-double.
19 points.
And then,
against Duke.
and then last year against Houston and another
Arkansas,
in
18
Arkansas.
and 14.
Yeah, 18 and 14 against Arkansas.
I'm anxious to see Desi.
Yeah.
Not to change the subject, but I guess what I would say is there are pieces that I have seen that I really like. There are pieces that I haven't seen that I think I'm going to like. Now, can you mold all of that together? And it's not easy, but I do think Coach Tang, Urick, and this staff have every opportunity to do that. I hope the fans are a little bit patient. I don't mean 3 or 4 years patient. I think let this group breathe and grow, and I think you'll like the results as they attain going forward. And I would say this. Let's say for a second they can accomplish and be right on that NCAA tournament bubble when we get to late February, early March. If that's the case, what are we thinking it'll be like a year from now, and 2 years from now, and 3 years from now, and 4 years from now? I like what's potentially there, because these guys are going to recruit.
Yeah.
They may not get everybody they offer. I think they were on the job 5 days when they offered their first 5-star guy, and it wasn't a guy they got. But hey, they're not afraid of anything, and I love that. If you're going to get in the ring with the big dogs, you better get you swinging.
Yeah, and in ways they're kind of built for almost year 2 a little bit more.
Sure.
Because they do have some of those transfers are multi-year guys.
And they have more time to work on the 23 class, other than they had to jump right in to assemble 11 guys, add 11 bodies.
Yeah, and I would say the chances are pretty good that they could be done, but I also think there's a 50% chance that maybe there's one more guy out there. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I hope that they can redshirt the couple of kids that they want to, and let those other guys grow. And then a year from now, I think those 2 kids, Manning and Finister, will be ready to roll.
Agreed.
And I think Taj, I don't think I'm overstating this, I think he's a lot better than they thought he was going to be. He is a bouncy, good athlete. He can shoot it a little bit. And Dorian can do a lot of things. He needs to work on his shot a little bit, and he'll get better and get stronger. So I'm pumped up for the future.
I would same perception I had, reaction. My son was at K-State basketball camp with Jerome Tang and got to meet all the players.
Yep.
We got to watch them. I don't take too much from it, but Taj Manning was out there, just it looked like he was on a springboard, really athletic. I'll tell you another guy that we didn't even talk about, but I think DY and I are on the same page. Juan Tomlin is a special talent.
He gets his shot off so quickly. He's very athletic. I think he's probably going to play mostly 3, but maybe a little bit of 4. Do you feel like that's accurate?
Yeah, I think he'll play a little 4. I think he'll be mostly 3. I mean, I'll tell you, look, I'm just watching the guy handle the basketball, working with the kids, and I mean, his ball handling, he looked like a guard with his ability. So
he's got skill, and you know, he's. I think he has some confidence, and I'm anxious to see what he brings. I just want them to get off to a little bit of a decent start. And I don't mean just for the season, just in every way here, with building towards the season, and then, you know, do well in those first few games and maybe just rocket from there.
Yeah, and another New York guy. I like having New York guys, and they got 4 of them on the roster.
Right.
I love that. Similar to Chicago guards, toughness that you see there. And I agree with you. It'd be great to see them get off to a good start and really get the fan base unified. I mean, I feel like they're unified right now, but if they see it on the court, to get butts more and back in Bramlage, get those seats filled again.
I appreciate you saying that, and I'm going to be a little bit of a salesman here and say we need K-Staters to be in that building from day one. Because if you are there and if you are behind this group from the get-go, I think you will see a lot of things happen in the subsequent years. Because if we get that place back to where it is the real octagon of doom, where K-State is a tournament team and not just happy to be in, but they want to get something done when they get there, be there early, be there often, come a lot. You'll help grow the program.
I think that's a great way to end it, Wyatt. I think it's an exciting time to be a Kansas State fan right now.
Very much so.
Football season. This could be a special group in basketball. It's a great time to be a Wildcat.
Let me just say thanks for letting me visit with you guys. I was hoping this day would come sooner or later.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, like we said, we'll blame John Kurtz, who's not here with us, but we'll definitely want to have
John's
you on.
all right.
Yeah,
we
love John.
Yeah.
I am no way. He's our point guard. He makes this thing go. I am trying to fill his shoes, and I don't do a great job of this, but we appreciate you, Wyatt, and we will have you on again for sure.
Thanks so much, guys. Good talking to you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Cats. You won't find a nicer guy around, and appreciate him taking some time and plenty of time, being very gracious with his time for us here on the 3 Mod Pod. Stay tuned. We're going to be back at it each and every week with you here as we lead into football season. Looking forward to linking back up with Derek and Cole and the whole gang here pretty soon. As always, appreciate Home Field Apparel and Holiday Distillery, plus Tucker Franklin producing this thing behind the scenes. For all of those gentlemen, I am John Kurtz. Thank you for listening to another Fremont Pod. We'll talk to you soon.